Movies and science have had a bittersweet relationship for a very long time. At times, movies demonstrate incredibly complicated physical phenomena in a lucid way, making science more accessible to the average viewer. However, sometimes films take what movie makers call creative liberties in order to create an impactful moment or to supplement the movie's plot with a surprising twist. In this video, we'll take a look at some common movie myths that don't actually hold up in real life. Number 1. Chloroform knocks you out in 2 seconds flat. Imagine that Brad is minding his own business when a shady figure sneaks up on him from behind and places a piece of cloth across his nose and mouth. 2 seconds later, Brad is unconscious. This is a fairly common on-screen event, especially in action and thriller movies, suggesting that a cloth soaked in chloroform can knock someone unconscious in the blink of an eye. There are a few problems with this big screen trope. First of all, chloroform doesn't knock someone out that quickly. The chemical's efficacy depends on the dosage of chloroform being used on the victim, which differs from one case to another. Second, and the bigger problem, is that this practice is highly dangerous. If the dosage is too high, the negative effects of chloroform poisoning can cause severe symptoms and may even be fatal. This is one of the primary reasons why chloroform is no longer used as an anesthetic on patients during medical procedures. Number 2. Gun silencers turn gunshots into silent whispers. When James Bond puts a silencer on his firearm, we know that he means business. However, one thing that James Bond movies, along with most other action films, get wrong about silencers is that while they significantly reduce the sound of a gunshot, the sound is nowhere near as dampened as it seems to be in movies. A gun silencer, or suppressor, slows the release of the propellant gases that result from firing a bullet. This can potentially reduce the bang of a gunshot by nearly 20 decibels. The sound of a gunshot is muffled, yes, but it's still not silent, and certainly nowhere near as quiet as they depict it to be in movies. Number 3. Gunshots throw people off their feet. Here's another gun-related myth. A bullet's impact can cause the victim to get knocked back off their feet. This one feels quite real, since we think that a bullet traveling so fast must pack quite a punch. However, while bullets do move incredibly fast, the aerodynamic shape of the bullet is designed to rupture through objects with an extremely concentrated force. That being said, the bullet is too small in size compared to a human and doesn't have enough momentum to actually knock a person off their feet. The victim might stagger backwards from the impact and also from the shock, but there are other factors like bullet weight and where the bullet hits on the body that would change how the impact is felt. In fact, the shooter is more likely to be the one to get thrown backwards. This is where Newton's third law kicks in. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The gun generates an immense force to propel the bullet forward, meaning that an opposite force pushes the gun backwards. This backward force is called recoil, and it can be large enough to knock someone right off their feet. Number 4. Asteroids are clustered together. Sci-fi movies based in space absolutely love asteroids. Moviegoers are fascinated by the idea of a massive space stone slamming into Earth and causing the apocalypse. However, most movies take many creative liberties with how they portray asteroids. One such example is showing asteroids clustered so close together that spaceships engaged in a dogfight must maneuver through the tight spaces between them. This cluttered field couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, once you run into an asteroid, you would typically have to go more than 960,000 kilometers before finding another one. That's right, that's how far apart most asteroids are, nearly 100 times the distance between New York and Tokyo. However, it should be noted that showing a lot of asteroids in one 2D image or frame is tricky, which is why most images will have asteroids bunched up more closely. In fact, we recently made a video about asteroids and faced the same challenge. But showing asteroids so close together that spacecraft must dart and dodge to maneuver through them, that's totally unrealistic. Another common asteroid-related misconception is that if any asteroid ever slams into our planet, it would cause mass destruction. Many people may not know this, but Earth is constantly being hit by space stones, including asteroids. However, the vast majority of these stones burn up during their entry through Earth's atmosphere. Number 5. Humans use only 10% of their total brain capacity. Popular culture loves to propagate the idea that human beings use only 10% to 30% of their total brain capacity, but that if we could use all of our brain's true power, we could be limitless. In fact, There are a few famous Hollywood movies, such as Limitless and Lucy, which revolve around exactly this idea. In reality, though, it doesn't seem to be true. The human brain is a complex piece of machinery composed of many tiny but highly significant components, all of which work in perfect harmony to make the whole body function and keep us alive. A healthy individual, therefore, uses all of their brain capacity, that is, 100% of what their brain can offer. Number 6. Radioactivity makes superheroes. As you have likely noticed, many superheroes are created as a result of freak accidents involving radioactive radiation. Think of Spider-Man, the Hulk, Daredevil. There are simply too many examples to count. While we're constantly surrounded by small amounts of radiation wherever we go, there's no research or scientific evidence to prove that exposure to radioactive radiation can turn ordinary people into extraordinary superheroes. Most mutations from severe radiation exposure might give some people an extra finger or a rare genetic disease, but being able to climb up walls or turn into a huge angry green warrior is not among the known side effects. Scientists have been studying the effects of radiation exposure from the Chernobyl meltdown for decades now, and while they've discovered some very interesting things, superpowers are not among them. Number 7. You can casually walk away from an explosion without being hurt in any way. Explosive devices cause damage and destruction in two ways: shrapnel and shockwaves, both of which fly out rapidly in all directions following an explosion. Even if you take cover behind a wall or metal barrier, you would be shielded from the metal shrapnel released from the explosive, but you would still be vulnerable to the shock wave. The more powerful an explosion, the more dangerous the resulting shockwave will be. They can knock people off their feet and fling them onto sharp objects or against hard surfaces, which can cause grievous and sometimes fatal injuries. So, next time you see a movie hero casually sauntering away from an explosion, remember that it's highly unrealistic and dangerously misleading. These were just some of the very common movie myths that popular culture simply can't get enough of. Did we get them all? Are there any other common myths that movies use and propagate that you can think of? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.